So we just wrapped up 2024. Very disappointing year. And it's the third year where we've underperformed the MSCI world. And the fund has basically gone nowhere for 3 years. As an investor in the fund, I am extremely disappointed by that outcome. And obviously, as the portfolio manager of the fund, I feel the pain. But this is not completely outside what has happened in our history or other people's history. We've seen other fund managers following similar strategies underperform the past 3 years. The truth is, if a strategy outperformed all the time, everyone would pile into it and would stop actually outperforming. So one could argue that short-term underperformance is the unfortunate price that you have to pay for long-term outperformance. It's nothing does well all the time for a reason, and I think you found some data to support that.
Absolutely. As you say, long-term outperformance comes at a cost, and it is short-term, but sometimes that short-term can feel quite long. So Wellington Managers looked at 339 top-performing managers. These are managers in the top decile. And this is from a period from 2013 to 2022, so quite a long period. And what they found is that all of those managers had underperformed for at least 2 years, all of them. But 73% of them had been in the bottom quartile for 2 years, and 52% had been in the bottom quartile for 3 years.
It's a pretty extreme outcome.
It is, and that all these managers have felt a lot of pain. But this is what you said. You have to. There is a price for that long-term performance, and underperformance is part of that.
And how does it work then if they still ended up in the top 10% of managers over that period? How does it work that they can go from being in a period of bad performance essentially for 2 or 3 years and then recover?
Well, because markets move very quickly. When markets fall, if a market falls 30% and you're up 10%, you can erase a lot of underperformance and then generate a lot of outperformance on top of that in a very short space of time. And we've seen that in many markets in the recovery from whether it's .com or GFC. The recovery happens very quickly. And we'll talk about some of the things that happened in .com and GFC later. But when markets move, when things turn, it all happens.
And does that study tell you basically when would be a good time to buy such managers?
Well, it doesn't tell you when to buy the market, but for those managers, funnily enough, it is actually when they've gone through a long period of underperformance. That's when it's often the best time to buy. And I actually just look at the fund I used to work for 10 years ago. They did incredibly badly for many years, for 3 years. I think that was the 3 years after I left, and then made it all back in the space of 6 months, and then some. But actually, the same manager in the lead up to GFC, in the 3 years leading up to that, he'd been underweight banks. In fact, he was shorting banks because it was a hedge fund, and his clients were telling him, "What are you doing?" No one believed him. But then GFC happened, and it all turned around very, very quickly. And this is just how markets and how funds work. That sometimes, and especially when you see big market dislocations, as we're seeing now, it leads to long-term outperformance for various styles of managers. But then when it changes, the reversion is quick.
Yeah, I think in my own experience, and I wasn't short the banks, but I avoided them at the time. Again, I underperformed for the 3 years leading up to the GFC and made it all back in 1 year. So very, very similar outcome in my experience back then as well.
Yes.